Welcome to Critical Conversations with the Compass Foundation. I am Chris Hussain.
I am Shanta Sipasad.
I am Narmada Ramjit Singh.
And we are yet again very pleased to have you join us today And I think this is our first episode back out since our break, Shanta.
Correct, yes.
So, how was your little time off?
It was very good.
What
A
did
lot
you do?
happened.
What did you do?
We had carnival, we had a lot of work, a lot of news, a lot of headlines to catch up on.
Yeah. I think we had somewhat of a safe carnival. I must say
Yeah.
it was somewhat of a safe carnival. Of course, we have a number of top stories to get through in today's program. So today is all hot topics. Sure, right?
Yes.
Okay.
So we have so much to talk about.
We have a lot to talk about. So, of course, coming off of Carnival, we saw something very interesting happening politically in this country. Of course, that is I want to say the alliance. Is it still an alliance? So what I'm getting at right now is the United National Congress opposition. Of course, we would have seen that the UNC faced the last local government election with an accommodation
Correct.
with the NTA. Of course, we have had several conversations on the show about the result of that. Did they win, did they not, etc. And we could go back and forth and argue amongst ourselves and in this country and all of that. But of course, what we saw was somewhat of a spat. Is that a correct word to describe it? It was a spat, a quarrel, a disagreement.
I would think it's disagreement.
A disagreement. So of course you had Mr. Griffith. He came out and he would have, I think, fired a few shots. And of course, now we see in today's news. So we flash forward in today. We're seeing that the People Empowerment Party,
Right.
the political leader.
Is he the political leader?
Well, he has some questions to answer with that.
Right.
He has some questions to answer with that. But today he still may be, right? I assume he is, right? So they say. So, of course, he is now saying that he endorses Mrs. Bisasa
And the UNC.
and the UNC, and he would like to go into accommodation with them, etc.
You know what is interesting about that? I recall with the disagreement between the UNC and the MTA, the political leader of the UNC did indicate and speak about smaller parties in terms of, what are their internal elections and procedures like to ascend to these positions of political leader and whatnot. And now we're seeing PEP with Philip Alexander coming in, and it's one day he's political leader, the next day he isn't. So I think those questions should also be raised according to that party as well. If you want to raise it for the NTA, raise it for all parties that come your way.
What is interesting to me is this narrative of unity. I think it was Dr. Whitford James I was listening to, if I'm not mistaken. And he said that with this sort of alliance, accommodation, partnership, whatever you want to call it, it's the same thing.
Right.
Right? Politically, it's the same thing. It must be genuine.
Mm-hmm.
And so he questioned if this is, I feel as though he questioned if this is genuine. Do you think that this alliance so far, I mean, you would have seen what the alliance with the UNC and NTA, and of course now PEP is coming into the mix despite the squabble between the main political leaders of both PEP and NTA. But that aside, before we get to that, do you think it is genuine unity?
You know what, I can't say for sure, but one thing I would advise is wait and watch. I wouldn't be so quick to
Premature.
say that it will last all the way to general election. Things are unpredictable right now. We just have to wait and see.
You know what's interesting about your answer? You didn't say yes. And I think that's how we feel.
Yeah.
We're confused. We're unsure.
Because when you look at the track record of the political leaders of both the smaller parties, Mr. Griffith and Mr. Alexander, they have a track record of basically making commerce. We saw when the People's Partnership was in government, Gary Griffith was Minister of National Security, and he had lots to say about the then Prime Minister, Mrs. Prasad Bisesa. I think throughout I've always heard Mr. Alexander speak negatively about the UNC and the political leaders. So my question is, what has changed? And can we see this behavior? Can we trust these persons to not create further confusion in the future?
I think in this country right now, we feel unsafe and unstable in many ways. We look at the economy.
Crime, politics, where our youth are going, the cost of living. There's so much instability in this country.
And I mean, we would have seen how this government performed, the PNM government that is. And I think persons, when you look at the last local government election voter turnout, it showed me that persons in this country, the PNM they would have lost voters. They would have lost, because they would have lost a certain amount of, they lost the Marabella West seat in San Fernando. They also would have lost, was it a seat in
Sandy Grande.
Sandy Grande, and one of the newer seats in Mayaro, and even Couva Tabakit, I think the UNC
The
picked
Roy
up.
Sonia.
Correct. But the voter turnout was still very significantly low for both. So it's so low, the lowest it has been, that you cannot really deduce or predict too much. All you can say based on these trends, you're going to have a low voter turnout come next year general election. But why is the focus so much so on the opposition? And I think the focus so much is focused on the opposition is because we understand fundamentally that we want something that is stable. We want a vehicle for change in the country. And so this is the hope here.
Right.
The question is this a home here? Meaning, is this a political home for persons? Do we feel stable? Is it genuine unity? Or is it that the enemy of my enemy is my friend?
Right.
And are willing to sleep with the devil?
I think transparency and accountability is essential in any organization, including the government. And I feel like these are questions that should be posed to the membership, actually.
Well, that's the interesting thing. The UNC has an internal election in June. I know that constitutionally, at least the Natex internal election is due in June.
You know, for a moment, just for maybe our viewers, I think there's so much confusion around UNC party elections and if it's internal Natex leadership. So maybe if you would like to clarify which election is due.
Well, constitutionally, the national executive is due.
Right.
And that includes the chairman, the deputy political leaders, the vice chairman, the executive of the United National Congress. And this group of persons, they're responsible for selecting candidates
So it's
and
not-
running the business of affairs of the
So
party.
it's not the political leader election.
No, but what we have seen in the past, we have
Right.
seen where Mrs. Pasal Bisasa would have brought up her
Election.
election combined with the Natex.
Okay.
This was done consistently, right?
Right.
Throughout all the previous
I-
internals.
I think that was 4. Right. So,
Okay.
so we're being told it's 4 out of 5 times. So,
So let's just say she decides to not call the leadership because she does not have to.
And that's-
Constitutionally, a national
At
executive
least.
election is due.
but here's the
Okay.
thing: why wouldn't she? And the reason I asked why wouldn't she, because the job of a political leader, of any political leader, is to win elections.
Right.
And I mean, with all of this conversation happening within the United National Congress, I mean, you look at the UNC, the cottage meeting just last week, and you hear the comments about there's no vacancy for the post of political leader. And I think that is a very regressive way of thinking. Once you hold a leadership position, be it prime minister, be it a political leader, be it anywhere, you have certain deliverables that you must meet.
You must be accountable.
And you must be accountable. And so the vacancy or the conversation behind the vacancy is always there. When you say something like the Prime Minister must dissolve Parliament and call an election now, that is exactly what you are saying. You're saying that you disagree with how he's performing as a Prime Minister. And so if you disagree there, then you must also agree here in saying that the vacancy or the conversation is very legitimate. And so if you did not win the last local government election, then definitely I see why persons are calling within. And I must say there's a number of persons within the UNC membership. Just look on social media, you go to the meetings, you listen to people, you speak to real people, and they say this similar thing. They want an opportunity. And you're seeing MPs come out and not defend the party, but defend one singular person. And there's this whole story or this message where, and I'm noticing it, it's being set up for someone to be a villain or a traitor against Kamala, when it really isn't that. What do you think about that?
So, I just want to understand something, because you say that it's a setup for persons to be a villain or a traitor. But let's just say, because there's no talk about, and that is coming from the political leader, that is about the Natex elections. So, if a Natex election is due, what is the fear?
Have it.
Have it.
Get a fresh mandate from your membership and go confidently.
Who would be the villain in a Natex election? Nobody is going after your position of political leader. Have your Natex elections. And the UNC, from as long as I can remember, is a party of democracy. It's a party that follows the rule of law. And I don't see them, especially those guiding principles, they would not put off their own Natex election.
I agree.
Yeah, and say what you want about Mrs. Bisessa. One thing, and she showed us this recently with the local government election. She believes in that. She believes in elections.
Right.
She took and she won the case.
Right.
She took the government of the day to the Privy Council.
Because she ensured, and I would commend her for that. You took the government to the Privy Council to uphold the Constitution of Trinidad and Tobago. So you, I am sure, in your good wit, would maintain the Constitution of your party.
I think she would. And at least in having these elections, which are allowing, that is the right thing, it's just the right thing to do. But it allows for the fresh mandate to be sought, and I think that's so important. Of course, also, we must discuss the conflict resolution with these alliances, because, of course, you have to manage the expectations going into this.
But before you go there, you speak on conflict resolution amongst the parties, but when we look at the arms within the UNC, we have the women's arm, the youth arm, constituency executives, disciplinary committees. Are these arms within the party functioning? Because from what I recalled, was it 2022? There was supposed to be youth arm election, women's arm, and these elections were not called since then. So,
and one person, I think, was appointed to the position.
Because the last one ran off and went to the other side, and that whole bacchanal that transpired. But we are going into 2025, and I believe the party itself, the arms of the party, should be functioning.
I agree, and I also want to add that there are some posts that are vacant on the national executive, one being the Tobago coordinator. Mm-hmm. The last Tobago coordinator would have joined the People's National.
Yes.
The former UNC Senator Tahako Bika would have been the Tobago coordinator in Natex, and so now that post is vacant. So I think it's a very legitimate case, because of course Tobago is a part of a general election, which is, I think the UNC understands what ought to understand when we go back to Bastille Pandey, founding principles of having a national party.
Speaking of Bastille Pandey, right? In 2010, when Mrs. Basad Basasa would become political leader, this election would have taken place, I believe, 4 months before the general election.
Really?
4
Correct.
months.
Really?
In January of 2010,
January 24th.
January 24th, yes, she became political leader. May 24th of that same year, 2010, she was prime minister
With 29 seats.
with 29 seats.
So this is the argument that we're hearing, that, it's too close to general election, but there's no better time than the present.
And
Sometimes
I'm
we just-
hearing sorry to cut you off, but I'm hearing the political leader, she's marching forward into 2025 general election. Screening is going to start in May month.
I don't-
But you're jumping the gun.
Yeah.
You need a proper functioning national executive, by extension a proper screening committee, before you could screen persons. How is it you want to encourage persons, come, drop your nominations, but you don't want them to be nominated for a position in your party? You want them to represent people nationally, but there's no vacancy on your Natex that has plenty flaws.
Yeah.
Now, I could be wrong in saying this, but I think in 2020, the selection of certain candidates may have frightened the voters. And it would be a screening committee who would have selected these candidates. And I heard Mrs. Basad Bisessa say a few weeks ago, they call my MPs kindergartners, but they have now graduated. So let's just say 4 years after they have now graduated, is it we are going to see 2025 you selecting kindergartners or experience or not so experience? And this is something where we want to build trust within the population to vote for the UNC, and it should not be because the PNM is the worst at its worst, we will win by default.
And I think that has been what I have been seeing. And I think it's almost a lazy approach where the PNM that bad, so what they go do? They had a vote for the UNC. What they go do? But that's not what happened in local governments. Trinidad and Tobago. I mean, we are not a dumb population. We're not a dumb population. But that is interesting. That is interesting about the point that you make about selection of candidates. Here's the thing though, another argument that I saw was, well, it's not her, it's the people that surround her. Okay, I feel as though we heard that argument in 2010. We heard the same argument in 2013. 2015, she had new people. She didn't win. Okay. 2020, she had more new people. She still didn't win. Who is the common denominator in all of this?
I think there's a lot riding on this 2025 general election. A lot is at stake. A lot is at risk. All of the Gen Z age group, this election depends whether or not they might plan to stay or migrate.
Correct.
Yeah.
As you mentioned, the Gen Z generation, I am seeing the PNM, I don't know if it's campaigning, but they have started constitutional reform talks with young persons. And I must say, I admire their tactic and their strategy. Now, we saw for the last local election, they campaigned on reform, local government reform. So possibly this election, maybe it could be constitutional reform. Now, we will admit, the PNM has never implemented constitutional reform. They use it as a topic coming close to election to just start the conversation and get everybody on board. But when I looked, and I sent you the video, Chris, when I saw the amount of young persons that I would have gone to school with, who I knew from youth parliament and, from UE lessons, these circles, I am seeing a lot of persons gravitating towards the PNM.
I want to interject. Sure. I thought about this. I sat and I did, by the way, I wrote a letter to the editor of about a week or two ago. For some of y'all knew that we would have gone on a short break. Of course, some of us were immersed in religious activities. Some of us were immersed in carnival like myself, right? And so I interacted with a number of friends. The groups that you called.
Right.
University, high school, youth parliament, social media, whatever, Gen Z. And what it is that I'm noticing is that we have an intelligent population. We do. And I think what we want in this country is something that seems or is sane, genuine, and stable. And I think what we have right now, we don't have that. There's an absence of that in this country. Because what you have is somebody who could say load up the Matic, and then you have someone who can say that stand your ground is giving guns to one
race to kill the other.
Right. So that is unstable. That is unstable. That you would even think right in your speech. Yeah, and I'm sure you read this before you came and you raised in front of the population in a live a meeting. Of course, I assume you would read this before. I hope so. And so for you to read this for about the third or fourth time in front of us and think that is stable and that the right thinking people in Trinidad and Tobago will be empowered to vote for you because of this, I think it's a next level kind of thing in this country. No wonder we saw the voter turnout being that way. No wonder we saw it being that way. So we want a political home in this country. The UNC is supposed to be the big tent. Come one, come all. Everybody, all the unity, all of that. But the reality is, and here's where perception may be reality. The perception in this country for the past 10 years has been that the current political leader of the UNC, she is perceived to be weak. That's the perception. That's a perception. Mm-hmm. That whether it is true, whether it is not true. And you want to know something? I'm going to use her words. Didn't she, when she campaigned against Mr. Pandey, said that the perception of his political, profile was tainted? Mm-hmm. And she understood then that perception also mattered and it can be reality. And if that perception could have been reality in 2009, perception could be reality right now. And I think that is one of the issues, because I don't know if our Trinbagonian persons are going to just reject unity. I don't think it's unity. My question is, and I don't expect you all to answer, but I'll ask here, you could comment below. Is it that the population is rejecting the political leader of the UNC?
Let me share a story with you, Chris. And I want to go back to this PNM consultation with Reform. So when I looked at the Facebook posts and whatnot, I saw someone that I went to school with, primary school, and I want to say this post right bother you, this PNM thing right bother you. It bothered me, and let me tell you why, and you would understand why. So this classmate of mine, I went to primary school with him, and later on I met him up at UE.
Right.
Now, at the time in primary school, it would have been the year 2007. And, as kids, we were in standard 4, standard 5, just about 10 years old. Yeah. You listen to what you hear on the radio, on the news, or what your parents are saying, and you come back in school and you speak about that. Because, your home and your parents and your family, that is your first source of information.
So what you told her in school?
So 2007 was a time where we had the COP. Mm-hmm. It was an election year, the COP, the UNC, and the PNM. And the school that I went to, students were either supporting, or their parents were either supporting the UNC or the COP.
Okay.
And I recall this particular boy stood with me against the rest of our friends, and we were supporting the UNC. Now, we didn't know much. We were kids at the time, but it came from our parents. Now, at that time where the politics was so divided within the UNC, because you had the COP going that way, and the COP did offer a sleek line of candidates and everything. It was difficult to retain your own. And when I saw, and I'm thinking about it now, when I saw that boy at the time, his parents, and he stood and supported the UNC as we were kids, now to see him supporting the PNM, it says a lot that the paradigm is changing.
Well, here's the thing though. Go back to the last internal election with the PNM. When Dr. Rowley was challenged by, I think, Mrs. Teixeira.
Right.
She did not criticize him for his politics, you know, because we know in this country the job of a political leader is to win elections. That is it. Your job is to win election. That's all you're supposed to do. The job of a prime minister is government policy, that kind of thing. And that is where Mrs. Teixeira had an issue with him. She took issue to his governing style, not his politics, you know, because she knew that he won in the election.
Right.
But she took issue, and I want to make that point. There's a difference between your job as of a prime minister, the job of a political leader, and the job of an opposition leader. Right? Political leader, win elections. Opposition leader, make sure you get an election to become the prime minister. Right. Get your party in government.
But Chris, why, we are young persons. We have conversations, but when I see young persons, my young people, going towards what we knew as the enemy growing up, they're not gravitating towards the party Hope or any other third party, They're going towards the enemy, and my question is, where are we lagging as a party?
Well, here I may interject, right? As an international marketing executive, perception becomes reality. And that's just what it is.
I think this country, you have a two-party system. It's either PNM or UNC, and who wants to be on a sinking ship? And you know what? That's sad.
It's
but
sad.
What I would tell you though, I have a different view. I didn't grow up knowing anybody to be enemy. Yeah? I grew up knowing that Trinidad and Tobago, all of us in this together, all of us. And I want to say something. I remembered the 2010 campaign as a child. I was a child. In 2010, guys, I was 10 years old. So I was old enough to know what was going on. And you saw this unity. And I remember looking, my grandparents looking at these meetings on the television, and you see this sea of people, like as a Marshall Monday concert. Marshall Monday. You all know what Marshall Monday is, right? Okay. That is how it was. Like, as far as the eye could see, there were persons. And then now, you look at the UNC, can't even say they're having a meeting, they have to say it's a cottage meeting.
And this is not about attacking the political leader.
No.
This has absolutely nothing to do with that. Mrs. Prasad served her term and she served it well.
Yeah.
This is about selecting the best possible team to take this country forward.
Correct.
Into general election and hopefully into government. This is about selecting the best possible candidate slates with the foresight and the vision to take us forward. This is essential, and it is crucial at this pivotal moment in our country's history.
What is your take on some of these UNC MPs clearly insulting and using UNC platforms, in my view, to intern? Because what I saw in the cottage meeting, I saw a campaign launched before an election internally. That's what I'm seeing.
Well, everybody has their bread and butter to protect, because I'm sure some of them may not have been able to ever see the halls of Parliament, and I totally understand that you want to protect what you have, if it means, being devious. So, I mean, they have something to protect. I don't blame them for wanting to fight against
But
what is
where's the
perceived.
loyalty, Shanta? Where is
Loyalty
the-
to what?
That's it.
You can be loyal to leader, loyal to self, loyal to country, loyal to party, and
No. If it's loyal to party, then all of them would be calling for an internal election, because loyalty to party means you want the party to win the election. Talk done. I see loyalty to Kamala. I don't see loyalty to the United National Congress. Kamala is not UNC. When I say it's an organization,
And
she's an individual.
And I always say the party is bigger than all of us.
Yeah, I mean, it was, when I say Kamala is not UNC, what I mean by that is, she is not the whole party. She
Right.
is the elected political leader of, well, for today. For today. Then there will be leaders in the future, etc. Once the party could survive, right? Just saying. Once the party could survive, right? But no. Where is the loyalty? I think the loyalty is to Kamala. It could never be the United National Congress. You cannot tell me that you are going into the public domain using the party's platform to attack your colleagues that you sit down next to, UNC elected MPs in the lower house.
Well, they probably didn't put up for the bill.
Look, you see that? Guys, we will definitely be back with more. Stay tuned. Back to critical conversations with Compass Foundation, and so for some of you who are now joining us, we are discussing I think a very critical conversation. That is, of course, the state of political affairs in this country, particularly with the opposition parties and the alliances. And so before we took our break, we were discussing why is the certain members within the UNC utilizing the party's platform like a cottage meeting, where they would live stream this on their UNC Facebook page, on their UNC, I know that there's a YouTube page, and it's almost as though, Shanta, they have launched an internal campaign in favor of Kamala before an election date. I think that's
Actually,
I think that's
in the election.
I think it's an unfair advantage. I think it's unethical. I think it is. And these are the legislators in this country. I mean, your job is to sit in Parliament, sit next to your colleague, your opposition, and this is how you're treating them.
Chris, I think it goes back to what we said earlier, the arms of the party, it isn't functioning. So you would resort to using a platform to attack one another. You don't have that disciplinary committee functioning to say, hey, fellas, come, have a seat, tell me what the problem is.
When we speak about the arms functioning, let's just speak about the youth arm for a minute here.
Right.
You said earlier on, that there was something about a youth election.
Well, to my understanding, there was supposed to be a youth arm and a women's arm election
Correct.
in 2022. That election was not held. I don't even know who is the chairman of the women's arm. I saw the political leader just appointed
But she can't,
chairman.
Can she? My question is, can she do that? Because if this position is an elected position, this is an elected position. The youth arm chairman position is elected, right? Not an appointment.
Right.
How can she decide who gets to be the chairman or not? Who is she?
And the other position, so is it that we have
Is
just
she
one
is she
person?
the UNC membership in one person?
This is not a monarchy. We can't appoint people.
No.
It needs to be a democratic process.
Correct. So there is so more reason for the Natex to have an election. You look at the Tobago coordinator. I know that the post is vacant. As you
Well, how
said.
many vacant posts are there on the Natex? And you know what we should ask? Is there even a quorum to have Natex meetings?
Have you heard of the outcome of these Natex meetings? You have a national, so the organization. Let us do our work in the working column, Trinidad and Tobago. There's an organization called the UNC. And so if you want to be a member of the organization, you become a party member, membership forms, etc. You become a member, right? And this membership now elects the national executive of the party, which would constitute of the political leader, the chairman of the party, deputy political leaders, and all the officers that is in a Natex election. Okay. I would think, and I don't know, you all will let me know, that the outcome of a Natex meeting, whatever the agenda is discussed there, they will inform the membership in some way, right? They ought to.
At least you know piece of it, because they are a political party, and you don't want if you want to say your trade secrets getting out there. But I don't think
What is the trade secrets?
probably how to win for the 10th time.
Yeah, how
we going to win?
Yeah, what's the secrets? What's so secretive?
You know, the question I have is whether or not there was a consensus amongst the Natex in regards to all of these various alliances.
Correct.
Is there a consensus amongst membership? These are questions that should be posed to the membership.
So then now, and I love that, because then the question is, has the UNC national executive and its political leader did they consult with the UNC membership in this accommodation with NTA or even PEP?
I don't believe
Do
it.
you think it's fair that the political leader and the whatever remaining Natex, they are unfair to the UNC membership by not consulting with them? Is
I
it that they
think so.
take it for granted the membership could be sheep and would just go along with whatever decisions are made?
Well, speaking about sheep, quite recently, the political leader of the UNC accused the former political leader and the founder of the party. I found that, you know what I found of that, Shanta? Unnecessary.
Poor taste.
It was just unnecessary. What is your point you're trying to make? It was just unnecessary. Whether it's true, whether it's not true, it's unnecessary.
I mean, as the founder of the party, he has,
I
been
think-
laid to rest. At least have some level of respect for his name and legacy that he has remaining. You build a name and legacy for yourself. You don't need to tarnish or bring down somebody else's
to make yourself shine.
To make yourself shine.
But
yeah.
I saw someone online, they came out and they said they were in that meeting and they accused her of saying that.
Yeah, that was former MP for Tabakit, Mr. Adesh Nanan. He did come out and say that.
And he said that, well, no, you're accusing the wrong person. You should look in the mirror, basically.
Yeah.
But all of the bacchanal aside, right? Because in politics, you're going to always have the bacchanal. And sometimes I've noticed they try to throw the bacchanal at you, the big politicians, because they know you'll get distracted, right? The organization that is the UNC ought or should be functioning. And when we have conversations about like what we're speaking about, the national executive offices are vacant, there are certain persons who are not invited to meetings who are Natex members. We are speaking also about as youth chairman who was not elected, right? And we hold no brief for the office holder. Mm-hmm. We speak about the principle and how that happened. Mm-hmm. Then I am not surprised that 30.34% was the local government voter turnout, because it seems to me as though it's not functioning. Would that be correct?
And then we don't even know the question of even constituency executives. I'm hearing so much talk that their constituency executives functioning with only 2 or 3 persons out of 12.
So Shanta, we have to go back. Is it loyalty to the UNC or is it loyalty to Kamala? And there's a difference. There's a difference between being loyal to your organization, that is a political organization. There are principles that would have been founded on, there are policies, there are things to be proud of. There are things to be proud of with a UNC government. And I understand maybe that is why those are the pull factors to the United National Congress. But when we speak about persons hurling insults at sitting members of parliament, and we speak about a dysfunction in Natex, and we speak about your constituency executive only holding about 2-3 people, then this cannot be loyalty to UNC, which is the party, has to be loyalty to something else.
Well, the results, we clearly see from the results, it shows the dysfunctions of the party, yeah? Because you cannot have a non-existent youth arm, women's arm, constituency executive, Natex, and expect to win.
At the end of the day, Shanta, effective communication and strategy and decision making fosters effective leadership. And that's just not happening. Down the line, all chains of command, it's not functioning in the way, in the manner it should, in fact.
I mean, we saw it with some, you made a point earlier on and you spoke about your childhood classmate and the PNM, but we also saw that with one of the ministers in the PNM right now, a sitting senator, apparently would have been UNC. We saw that with a councillor, was him Samuel Sanka. We saw that with Marcus Kedari in Marabella, South Vistabella. This is concerning, and it is interesting that the theme is that these persons are traitors and victims, but is it that they see here as not a political home anymore?
No, as you mentioned that word traitor, do you think, you know, and we speak about using the platform to throw shade at your fellow MPs and whatnot. Do you think a campaign might ensue with the traitors in the UNC?
You know, I find that terminology and the use of that word in itself in a democratic process, it's all wrong. You can't call someone who's your colleague, who's just a political opponent, and any other organization, these things happen. You don't go label them anything. You know, it's unnecessary. We're all adults. This is a democratic process. It's a constitutional right.
Exactly, especially in a party that promotes democracy. And I mean, I will commend Kamala for this. She has never ever put off Natex elections. She calls it when it's constitutionally due. So what is the fear now?
I think the expectation of Kamala and NTA was that there would have been an overwhelming result in the local government last year. And 1/7 is not bigger than the next. And I mean, you look at Indian Walk Lengua, that seat in 2019 didn't have to go to the court because it was 1-1. I think it was overwhelming 300 plus votes that the former councillor candidate back then would have been Rajesh Lal. So I definitely think there's fear in that they know that their political time is coming to an end because of them serving beyond, I think, their purpose. And I mean, the results show that. I mean, you can't be confident in that result, and then you go to be, you want to get a fresh mandate from your membership. I don't know. Maybe maybe she doesn't have the confidence to face the UNC electorate. Maybe she's a bit afraid. She thinks she'll lose.
But if that is your strategy to stifle your party, why not use a different strategy? Call the Natex election, put strong persons there so we can go into 2025 if it's with you, but strong set of candidates.
But here's the thing, the strong persons, and if we being honest and we looking on, all of us big and have sense, we see the meetings, we also look in the parliament, the strong persons are clearly being backbench. The strong people, look at that, the strong people, the strong persons are being backbench.
And attacked on platforms.
And the persons who have a number of questions to answer in the public domain as it relates to character, they're the ones
Being
that
promoted.
not just promoted, they're protecting
Yeah.
themselves and who. I know some persons are going to look at this program and say, oh my gosh, they look at them, they're trying to bust up the UNC and divide them. No, that is not what we're trying to do here.
No, they will call us the traitors.
No, please, ease us up, right? This is a modern democracy in Trinidad and Tobago. We are progressive, right? And the UNC has a very interesting task. The membership of the United National Congress has a very, I think, difficult task. I think it's an easy task though, but difficult emotionally for some.
Absolutely.
And I'm sure in 2009 it would have been an emotional task for the membership then as well, because the founder of the party.
But you know, we have to look at the bigger picture. If you want to speak about
But
2009, go ahead.
before we get to the bigger picture, I want to ask you that question, what I just was getting into, which would have been emotionally,
Right.
emotionally, some persons, they okay with not winning with Kamala, you know, they're okay with that once she is there. And some of them not even benefiting. So emotionally, there's something there. I don't know what is the psychology of this, but there's something there. Because if it is you have been losing consecutively, consistently, right? And then when you look internally in your organization, it fractured, it dysfunctioning. It's not to say functioning, no. If it was functioning, we would still be having a legitimate conversation about EBC and all of that stupidness, right? But there's proof in the pudding. If you don't study for an exam, how you expect to pass?
Yeah.
You know? And then now you have these alliances. And the question is, some people do not think it's genuine. That's where, so your brand, your political brand is being questioned.
Because, and Chris, you are so right, because what confidence are you giving persons? Last year, local election, August, you joined with the NTA. 6 months, that marriage lasted 6 months,
Hold on.
they broke up.
You joined with the NTA. Did you consult with the UNC membership about going into another alliance? Were there any consultations with the United National Congress?
No, they just eloped, they eloped.
Right? No, but this is a serious thing. But you're right. How could you just say, well, as a political leader, so yes, come, married now. What? You represent people, you boast that you represent 300,000 members, and you even meet with 300?
I mean, it is a disrespect to the membership.
That is disrespectful.
And
that is treating your membership like sheep.
Yeah. And worse yet, we are now having discussions with Philip and the PEP. And still you haven't learned from your mistake 6 months ago to at least have some consultation with your membership.
And there's a difference between 2010 and now. The reason why I think unity worked in 2010 is because you had a new political leader of the UNC, which was very important.
Right.
I don't know if it is you had the former political leader of the UNC, if the People's Partnership would have been so successful in the 2010 election.
Or if it would have had a People's Partnership.
Right, because you know you would have had that sort of...
I mean, we have to admit it, Kamala was the magnet of unity in 2010.
And I also think she happened to be at the right place at the right time as well.
Right.
Because when you look at the fallout between... that caused the COP to form. You're right, I don't think People's Partnership would have even been formed, right? But now we're in a different time. Now we're in a time where the same political leader of the UNC led the People's Partnership and it sank in 2015. Because if it did not sink, it would not have been what it was, 18 seats. You went from 29 to 18. So the People's Partnership did sink. That, and nobody must be proud of that. When you say that, it's just a fact. It's not, it's not no gleeful boast. But I think the difference is she was untainted politically.
Right.
She was not involved in all of this bacchanal. I mean, you lost St. Joseph, you lost Chaguanas West, you lose THA, you lose what it was, the
2013 local election.
And then you're coming down. You got election petition, and then 2015 general, 2020 general, and then 2023 trying to tell people they win. Well, here what, I have a question for you. If it is that, let's just say UNC, NTA, they won 1-7 bigger than the next, right? Okay. Okay? Then, if in fact you did win, what is your position in predicting 2025 when all they're mashing up right now? So what will happen?
Well, remember, she has a crystal ball, and she's saying that elections are coming in a few months.
How does she know that?
Well, listen, she has a crystal ball. Dr. Rowley, it seems as if he's on his last lap. The man is ready to retire. He has never called an election early. You think the man will call the election early now? When he ready to go and relax with Sharon?
Well, I think Dr. Rowley, when you look at his politics, Faris Al-Rawi said the greatest asset, I think he alluded, I'm paraphrasing here, he said something to the effect of one of the best assets to the PNM might have been the opposition leader. And I'm paraphrasing, that's not the exact word, those are not his exact words, but I think that's what he meant. Of course, if Dr. Rowley notices any sorts of change within the party, he may want to call a snap election to ensure that Mrs. Prasad Bissessa is there, and that is not something
Chris, hold on. You really think from 2015 to now, the PNM and Dr. Rowley really takes on the UNC as the opposition of the country? You think Dr. Rowley is going to be intimidated by Gary and Philip that mashing up the UNC?
Well,
to call a snap election?
That's a very important point, huh? I think that's a substantial point. I can't disagree with that. I don't know. I can't remember the last time you think he really take on the UNC. You don't really think about it.
And you know, when I compare Dr. Rowley's opposition, when he was opposition leader, to the opposition that we have now, it's two different styles and everything.
Yes. He was vibrant, alive, healthy.
Dr. Rowley could be on his way out. You think this man would call a general election early?
No, you know, I think about it, and I actually no, because no, I don't think so.
If you were to call it early, say it was at the end of this year, Mrs. Prasad Bissessa would have won political leader in January, and general elections was in May.
2010, yeah.
4 months after.
4 months, so it's not really an argument I see
Yeah,
credible.
it's not, and that's a real basic amateur argument, and these people are supposed to be able to debate in Parliament, and that is the argument you put forward. You can't even, debate with normal little people in Trinidad. When I say little people, I mean, oh gosh, some of these are no MP and thing, right? And that is your argument you will give us?
Yeah, because you're saying, come, nomination is going to close, we're on a footing for general election, I'm going to start a screen in May with my little fraction,
busy.
with the fraction of the screening committee that person's missing.
Hold on, your screening committee, there are persons on that committee who have questions to answer in the public domain.
I hope them new membership forms, they have to refill it,
But I want to know, is that we need to find out? I think we need to find out. We have to ask a legal luminary. Maybe we ask the very good, always willing to answer our questions, Mr. Tackler, and we have to give him a call to find out, because that is a very legitimate thing. But but we said this on the show. If you look at critical conversations, months ago we said that would have been the plan. Busy, election mode, on the road to victory, Kamala 2025. We knew that is what, because it's a very amateur conversation. I think that the organization, as I said earlier on, they have a lot of introspection to do.
And because you know, the when I listen to the platform and things being said, it's just a rerun of 2010, huh?
Yeah.
I think public trust is eroding every single day.
In
this countries, in the government, and institutions that are supposed to be protecting us. And to have this happening in a political organization that you have so much faith in, you know, an organization that has been run with so much integrity over the years, is a little bit concerning, given the particular juncture we're at currently.
I am not lost for words when it comes to UNC, but I think a stronger UNC, I could definitely see a stronger Trinidad and Tobago, but they have the opportunity to course correct. Now, the PNM's membership, they also, when their internal election comes around, they have some deep thinking to do, because Shanta, whilst the PNM is in government today, UNC, let us say UNC gets it right with the Natex, all of that, unity, and wins the next election, let us just say it's about, I don't know, 30 something, 30, 11, I don't know.
Right.
The PNM could sit in opposition for quite some time because of its governing style. And so they too, the membership of the PNM, has a job to do in that, yes, you're in government today, but what is the political life of the PNM going to look like? So the younger members within the PNM, they have to think about the party that they will have to carry forward.
And you said it in a correct manner. The younger members of the PNM has to look at the political party, not the loyalty to one person.
And I wouldn't expect Dr. Rowley, because Dr. Rowley, as you said on his way out, I also will not much expect that much from Mrs. Bisessa, because she also is on her way out, you know. So I definitely think, and so I put the young persons, both on the UNC and the PNM's bench, on notice. What are you prepared to do? Are you going to sit down there as a young politician and just be a token for being young? And what are you going to do? Grow up and practice the same politics? And so we will just be in this cycle of divisive, toxic politics. That is where we want to be. That your introduction into politics as a young person should be to chart something new forward, not to upkeep the status quo. And if that is what you intend to do, you might as well resign and give it to another young person so that they can somewhat be the voice of change and lead something forward. So the younger persons on the UNC bench, I am expecting to see them loud and about. I am expecting that. Will it happen?
Well, the political leader did say her kindergartners have graduated. So
I find that disrespectful.
That is a disrespectful comment.
And I think she's joking, and I think she's trying to make joke of what Dr. PNM called UNC that. But oh gosh, let me stop that. Nobody in here.
Yeah, but you don't continue a PNM narrative on your political platform about your UNC MPs.
Calm down with that. Calm down, right? Some of these persons in there work for where they are, right? When you look at some of those persons, there's an MP in there, won a scholarship, right? Work and live abroad, come back, worked her way. So please, if you have the former mayor, people work for certain things in there, right? So it can't be that. And the political leader, Kamala, said that she promotes the rank and file. You're telling me about that? When we were having a discussion about the show a few days ago, you were telling me about the rank and file.
Right.
And you know what I want to see one day? The rank and file become the political leader. That is what I want to see one day. And you know why? Because you see, who appointed you to be the person to oversee the rank and file? Who gave you that authority and power? Like, who came up with that?
Well, I always
The
hear
membership.
I
The
always hear the
membership.
political leaders state on the platform. You know, the usual poem, leaders will come, leaders will go, no one will love you
believe
as
that?
I do.
Okay.
But a child of the UNC would lead this party one day. She will be around to determine after who leads.
No, and if
or
it
is it a democratic process or a divine right?
No,
or-
but child of the UNC, that is so, I mean, I mean, it sounds good to the person, but when you look at her introduction to politics, I wouldn't say she was a child of the UNC when she would have gone up against the UNC in 1991 under the NAR. She went up against UNC,
right.
right? So I don't know if that is, and again, that is where we speak to branding and messaging and consistency. I think that was not in poor taste, you know, not in alignment with your political brand. You were NAR, you came in, you ascended, you worked. I'm not saying she didn't work. She worked her way up, became the political leader legitimately in 2009, right? But so you don't say things like that.
I think
That
it's
doesn't in your
premature
brand.
in determining the future after you're gone who will lead.
Yeah.
It seems as if after you need to still be in control of who takes charge.
Important point. Important point. Important point. Important point. Guys, we found today's discussion very necessary in that the country that we want to see in Trinidad and Tobago is not going to take some of us, it's going to take all of us in building Trinidad and Tobago. And it is important that if it is you are opposed to, let's just say you're opposed to the government, then if you are a UNC member or not a UNC member, you should want the UNC to get it right. You should want the UNC to get it right. You should want the NTA to get it right. You should want PEP. You should want HOPE. You should want, what is in Tobago? PDP and also Farley's party. You should want everyone to get it right. The Tobago People's Party. You should want everything to get it right. Because building Trinidad and Tobago is going to take each and every one of us. So I want to thank you all for joining us here on Critical Conversations. Leave a comment below and stay tuned for another Critical Conversation next week. I think we're going to have some interesting things to talk about next week.
Before you end, Chris, I would like to wish all those students, those essay students who would be writing exams next week, blessings, good luck, and I'm sure you would put your best foot forward.
Yes.
With that, we say thank you.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.